Good evening. Welcome to the 48th Annual Meeting of the South Brentwood Residents Association, SBRA. We've been around since 1973 and want to thank you for your support and involvement over the past decades. My name is Elisa Morgenthaler, and I am Secretary and past President of SBRA. I'm filling in for our President, Lauren Cole, who is unable to host tonight's meeting. We have a terrific group of speakers planned for tonight who will cover a variety of topics that are important to our area. First, we have continued our tradition of inviting some of the candidates for the upcoming election to speak. This year, we invited both LA District Attorney candidates, and Nathan Hockman has agreed to speak to us. Next, we'll have our ever-popular Senior Lead Officer, West LAPD Officer, Matt Kirk, who will give a report on the latest crime statistics and provide us with some suggestions to keep our family and property safe. Then we will hear from California Assembly Member Jackie Irwin. Jackie took over our area in 2022 after redistricting. This is a great opportunity to get to know Jackie and to hear what her priorities are for next year. Brad Sherman, our U.S. Congressman, will then provide us with a pre-recorded address from his office in Washington, D.C. On the transportation side, we have Nick Fox-Robin from LA Metro and Jaime Munoz from the Bureau of Street Services, who will speak about several projects that are being studied and implemented for South Brentwood and have the potential to impact traffic in our area. The format for the meeting will be where we will have a Q&A with each speaker where I'll ask the questions, followed by questions that we have received prior to the start of the meeting. Then we will open it up to audience questions that we received during tonight's meeting. To ask your questions during this meeting, please send them to the email info@southbrentwood.org. We have board members standing by to compile the questions, and we will pose them to the speakers. We will also have a Q&A following the meeting. You may have noticed that we have stepped up our communications to keep everyone informed. Board member Barbara Roll has done an excellent job editing and sending out our digital newsletter, and we have also redesigned our website. You can go to our website, www.southbrentwood.org, and click on the box that says subscribe to the SBRA newsletter to sign up to receive our newsletter. Before we start the program, we need to elect our officers and directors for 2024 to 2025. Their bios are on the website. The following has been elected by our board of directors to be officers for next year: Lauren Cole, President; Elise Arbor, First Vice President; Elisa Morgenthaler, Past President and Secretary; and Armando Pandola, Treasurer. The following slate of other additional board members we seek election for next year. They are Daniel Bornstein, Susan Hirsch, Marilyn Krell, Barbara Roll, and Pam Taylor. May I have a motion to approve the slate of board directors for next year?
I so move.
Thank you, Marilyn. May I have a second for the motion?
I second.
Thank you,
I
Armando.
second. I couldn't get it to it fast enough. Sorry.
Well, we've got two. We've got a plethora of seconds. So, Matt, I'm going to ask you to release the first poll, and I'm now going to ask the dues-paying members of SBRA to cast their vote on this motion by clicking on the ballot that has appeared on your screen. And Matt, can I get the results from the poll? Thank you, Matt. Congratulations to our new board. And you can take down that poll now, Matt. In addition to our voting board, SBRA has advisory board members who assist with our activities. The advisory board for next year will be Michelle Aronson, Laurel Davidson, Marina Di Pietri Sinaco, Albert Wong, Amber Jamal, Chelsea Rana, and Melissa Spagnuolo. Thank you in advance for the wonderful work you do for SBRA. We were always looking for more people to get involved in our board, so please reach out to us at info@southbrentwood.org and let us know if you are interested in joining our board. Madam, I'm going to ask you to put up this second poll. And with this poll, I'd like to find out about how all of you heard about tonight's meeting. I'm going to ask all of you to answer this poll and by marking all the selections that describe how you heard about tonight's meeting. Matt? There we go. It's the second poll. And if I get everybody to mark their selections. I think that's enough time for the poll. Thank you for your selections. They will assist us in getting the word out for next year's meeting. Excellent. Thank you. Dues-paying members of SBRA are welcome to attend our monthly board meetings in addition to our annual meeting. In order to become a dues-paying voting member of SBRA, please go to our website and click on Join or Donate. You can donate any amount, but there's some suggested donations are $40 for individuals, $25 for seniors 65 and over, and $100 for benefactors. You can donate by Zelle, PayPal, credit or debit card, or mail in a check. We're all volunteers, but we incur expenses for events like tonight's meeting, our MailChimp newsletter, and our website. To encourage everyone to pay dues, for anyone other than an SBRA board member who donates on or before November 10th will be entered into a drawing to receive some great prizes. The prizes include $10 gift cards from Vicente Foods, $25 gift cards from Coral Tree Cafe, and $50 gift cards from Baltair Restaurant. I also would like to mention that one of our sponsors, Cafe Lux, is offering a free drink if you download the Cafe Lux app and sign up for their loyalty program. I want to thank our sponsors for donating these great prizes. Finally, I would like to thank the AGM committee for the work that they did in putting together tonight's meeting. The members of the committee were Lauren Cole, Marilyn Krell, Susan Hirsch, Barbara Roll, Pam Taylor, and I also would like to thank the board members who also assisted with tonight's meeting. They are Elise Arbor, Armando Pandola, Daniel Bornstein, Elisa Morgenthaler, Amber Jamal, and Chelsea Rana. Thank you all for the assistance. I know what quite a lot goes into putting on these events, and a big thank you for you all. I also would like to acknowledge Jonas Hanlon of buyprint.net, who did an excellent job laying out and printing the signs and banners for this meeting. And now, without further delay, I would like to turn the virtual podium over to Nathan Hockman, candidate for LA District Attorney. Nathan, there you are. To start off tonight's discussion, please tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to run for district attorney. Also, I'm sure our members would like to know the role that the district attorney plays in prosecuting crimes in Los Angeles.
Certainly. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm sorry I'm actually in transit. I'm having a quintessential Los Angeles moment, being in traffic, of course. So my name is Nathan Hockman. I'm running for Los Angeles County District Attorney. Lifelong Angelino. I was born here in UCLA Hospital, grew up here, married now 31 years, and raised my three kids who are now in their 20s here in Los Angeles. My continuing background is Brown University, Stanford Law School. Came back to LA, clerked for a federal judge, went right to the U.S. Attorney's Office, was a federal prosecutor for 7 years and did the full gamut of cases, everything from narcotics traffickers and gang members to corrupt public officials and dirty cops. Had the chance after that to be nominated by a president of the United States, to go back as the Assistant U.S. Attorney General in charge of the U.S. Department of Justice Tax Division. Finished that job and went ahead and came back to L.A., was the head of two major international law firms' government investigations practice, and along the way was the president of the L.A. City Ethics Commission and the co-founder of the L.A. Sheriff's Foundation. Now, I think experience is important for your district attorney, because the district attorney, our current district attorney, actually has never personally prosecuted or defended a single criminal case in his career. I have 34 years of experience with hundreds of cases under my belt. DA turns out to be an enormously powerful position. Doesn't answer to the governor, the attorney general, the mayor, the police chief, the sheriff, the city council, the board of supervisors. As Gascon showed on his first day, first hour, first email, when he issued 9 special directives that changed the course of criminal justice in favor of criminals and away from victims, I have the power, if I'm the DA, to actually restore that balance on day one. You're in charge of a $460 million budget, 2,100 employees, 750 of which are prosecutors, and you do over 180,000 cases every single year, criminal cases every year. So that's the power of the DA. That's why I think experience matters if you are going to be the district attorney. And the reason I want to run for district attorney is, quite candidly, I don't want to leave. I love it here in Los Angeles County. But we have a situation where basically it's not the high taxes, the traffic, the smog, the earthquakes that have gotten people to leave over the last 3.5 years. It's fear that they've experienced in ways with people breaking into their cars, their homes, their stores, being conscious of what you wear because you're worried that somehow that's going to attract the attention of criminals. We have more fentanyl poisonings that are killing 18 to 35-year-olds than anything else out there for that age group. We're also the capital of human trafficking. So I'm not going to let a guy come in from San Francisco, which is Gascon, after he's ruined the public safety there, and come into LA and get you, me, our family, our neighborhood, anyone to leave. I'm going to fight for what I love, and that's why I'm running for district attorney.
Sounds like a great plan. In terms of some of the questions we received, Nathan, our area has seen a 45% rise in residential burglaries. What specific policies would you implement to address and reduce this trend if elected? And how would your approach differ from the current DA?
Well, the current DA came up with a new initiative probably about 2 months ago. And his entire new initiative was to announce a hotline number. Literally, that was it. He announced a hotline number. I actually called it just to see what the hotline number was all about. And it says if it was a robbery or emergency in progress, hang up and dial 911. Otherwise, leave a message at the sound of the tone, beep. I can tell you I will do a whole lot more than that. The way to actually tackle residential crime is to understand where the crime's coming from. So part of it is international. It's coming from Chilean, Colombian, Venezuelan gangs. Part of it is local. It's coming from local street gangs in South LA. So you got to work with the federal government, that'd be the U.S. Attorney's Office, probably the FBI. You probably also have to work with state governments because it's not confined to LA County. It's hitting all the surrounding counties. Then you got to work with your local law enforcement. You got to go ahead and make sure that the criminals understand that if they do get arrested, they won't be arrested in the morning and out by the afternoon. So you have to actually institute real and effective bail policies, and then let them understand that they will be held accountable for their actions. But ultimately, the message has to be delivered to criminals. You have to convince them and deter them from committing that criminal conduct in the place, not necessarily fill your prisons to the breaking point, but figure out a way that they understand that there'll be real consequences if they engage in these actions, so don't. And if people say, what day and age are you shooting for? Well, certainly it's pre-Gascon, pre-2020, but I'm shooting for 2014. 2014 was considered our safest year in the last 50 years, and that's when deterrence was working. A DA was doing her job, law enforcement was doing theirs. Victims understood if you dialed 911, not only would someone pick up the phone, but you could get justice for the harm you suffered. And criminals understood the lines were the laws and they were real. They were being consistently, fairly, and impartially enforced. And there were real consequences on the other side of the line. So in 2014, in record numbers, criminals weren't committing crimes, thus saving a whole lot of victims. So that's basically the game plan we get back to. And I'll tell you, prosecutors who basically voted 98% to support George Gascon's recall, they are very eager to get back to their jobs. Law enforcement, that's tens of thousands of law enforcement officers. They want to get back to their job. And as DA, basically, I would institute a policy that wouldn't go back to mass incarceration, another failed policy, just like George Gascon's decarceration. I would focus on proportional, smart, common sense accountability that measures a punishment proportional to the crime and the person who committed it, and sends that message of accountability back to criminals.
Under what, turning our attention to the cleaning of homeless encampments, under what circumstances would you support or direct the clearing of homeless encampments and surrounding areas, and what criteria would you use to decide whether an encampment should be cleared?
So I'm a big fan of the host team. That's the Homeless Outreach Services team. It's a combination and partnership of law enforcement with the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Public Works, and the Department of Vocational Services. And what the host team has done for the last 7 years is they go out in this partnership group. They go into a homeless encampment and they enact a 5-point protocol: identify, assess, outreach, post, and move. Basically, they identify each person there over 8 weeks. So it's not a one-off, I'm going to see you on a Monday and I'll move you on a Tuesday. They literally go back day after day, identifying each person, assessing their need. So if someone's a vet, maybe they can get them in the VA. If someone just lost their job and they're homeless, maybe they can go get them a job. If they have a serious mental illness or a drug addiction, hopefully they can find a housing solution that has the attendant services to actually deal with the root causes of what made them homeless in the first place. The third step is outreach. That's when they actually work with the homeless people who are there to get them into these different facilities. But the fourth step is you post a sign. It's a 14-day sign. And it says in essence that after 14 days, they're going to move you, and they bring the trucks at that point and move them. But it turns out that in the 7 years they've been doing this, moving thousands of homeless people into facilities to get them the appropriate services, they've only had to arrest 2, proving that if you actually treat the homeless humanely, but you make sure that they understand that ultimately they're going to have to move, they willingly do so. And so the host team is probably one of my best examples of when law enforcement works in this partnership successfully.
Thank you. And we've also received some inquiries about improving response times in handling residential burglaries. How would you work with law enforcement to improve response times, and what do you have any new initiatives to improve this partnership?
I'd love to improve response times. Unfortunately, I don't have in the DA's office the ability to direct law enforcement on how they allocate their resources on response times. I will tell you that one of the things that law enforcement is suffering from is a lack of personnel. LAPD is down over 1,000 officers. The sheriffs are down over 1,000 deputies. Even local law enforcement is down. It's very difficult to recruit. Part of the reason it's been difficult to recruit is that the DA doesn't have their back. They basically do these cases. They're very, they put together, they work with victims, they bring the cases to the DA's office. And over the last 3.5 years, it's not the facts and the law that have controlled, but Gascon's personal political agenda that predetermines that certain crimes and certain criminals will not be prosecuted, even if the DA, even if law enforcement brings them a very good case. So I can actually change that mindset and say to law enforcement, look, you do your job and we'll give a fair shake to any case you bring us that shows beyond a reasonable doubt that someone violated the law with legally admissible evidence. And that, I think, will go hopefully a long way for law enforcement then to recruit people, good officers, to come into this community, because they'll know that the DA actually wants to be their partner and is not more interested in prosecuting them than partnering with them. So again, if they get more officers, response times will be improved. If they don't, then I don't know exactly how they're going to improve those response times with the current staffing they have.
Barbara, did we get some additional questions that have come in during the meeting?
Hi, yes, we had one, but he may have already addressed it, but I'll just reiterate it. Do you intend to enforce recent Supreme Court decision to allow cities to enforce the cleanup of encampments?
Yes, the Grants Pass decision allowed cities now to go ahead and deal with homeless encampments. And again, the idea isn't to criminalize the idea of homelessness, but if the homeless basically are offered services and refuse them, if they're committing crimes in the homeless encampment, whether it's using and shooting up with meth, heroin, and fentanyl, engaging in vandalism, engaging in criminal threats, disorderly conduct, prostitution. Those crimes right now are misdemeanor, Gascon calls quality of life crimes, and he has standing orders not to prosecute those crimes. So law enforcement is not is not effectively arresting people based on committing those crimes because they know the DA will decline the cases. I'll go back to having law enforcement do its job. And the idea is in many ways, you get homeless individuals that have mental illness or drug addictions into mental health court or drug court that will offer them often a choice, which is that you can spend more time in jail or you can deal with the rehab programs that can hopefully help you get stable again and get back on your feet rather than get back in a tent on a street. So again, I think that that Supreme Court decision provides another tool in the belt of both law enforcement and cities and social service organizations to deal with the homeless crisis that we've been facing over the last decade. It has only gotten worse, not better.
Well, thank you. That's all excellent information. Is there anything else that you would like our members to know?
I just, it's the time to vote. And if you've already voted, thank you very much. Hopefully what I've said makes sense for you. If you've already voted for me, again, double thank you. If you haven't, then, I will do my best if I become DA to be the best DA possible and earn your vote maybe next time. And if you have any family members or friends or neighbors that you can reach out to that may not have voted yet, now is the time. People have waited 4 years to weigh in on what they think about Gascon. They didn't have the chance through recalls, but now they do. And I very much hope everyone takes advantage of this opportunity to make their voice known through the ballot box. And I very much appreciate this opportunity to address you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right. Thank you again.
I now would like to hear from Matt Kirk, Senior Lead Officer, West LAPD. Matt, are you there?
Yes, can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
I can certainly hear you. I think everybody else can too.
Okay, just checking. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I know we have the map I gave you, Alyssa, with the crime stats, more specifically for the South Brentwood area. And actually, I know we're up heavily in burglaries throughout Brentwood. When I had the numbers run for the South Brentwood area, we were up 7.7%. So for the whole Brentwood area as a whole, we're up about 45% right now. But for the South Brentwood area, we're up. This year, we've had 42 burglaries in the South Brentwood area, as opposed to last year, we had 39. The biggest uptick here is the robberies. We have 7 year-to-date versus 3. But I want to explain on the robberies that since we have the commercial businesses there, majority of these, with the exception, I believe, like one, is Estes robberies where people go into, say, a Ralph's or a Whole Foods. They take products off the shelf. They attempt to walk out and they're stopped by an employee. And to get past the employee, they use force or fear to get past them. Then it becomes, instead of a simple theft, it becomes Estes robbery. So that's where that for crime increase, which is 133%, that's where that's coming from. But one of the other things that's up is the Grand Theft Auto is up 36%. And a majority of these cars that have been stolen in this area have, one, they've been left unlocked. I had one just the other day, what was left unlocked, keys in the car. So that's an easy for the thieves to take that car. The other are the Kias and the Hyundais, because they have the ignitions that are, they supposed to did an update on those cars, the newer versions, because they're easy to kind of start up. There's where they use a USB port. It was on TikTok, and that's what made the drastic increase with the Kias and Hyundais. So that we have 26 this year versus 19 last year. So that increase, a majority of those, aside from the unlocked vehicles with keys left in, a lot of those are going to be the Kias and Hyundais. So if you do own one of the newer Kias or Hyundais, try and go to your dealer. I know they had a recall to try and do a software update that helps alleviate this. So if you have one of those vehicles, I'd highly suggest going to the dealer and asking them about the update on the vehicle. If not, to be 100% secure, I know they're kind of old school, but the steering wheel locks. You can also have, usually it's car stereo places, they put ignition kill, a special switch on the car. If you want to do that, that's also a way to prevent that. So aside from the 36% in the Grand Theft Auto, the other thing that's up is theft. And this is up, we're 60 this year. Last year at this time, we had 46. And a majority of this is going to be the mail theft and package theft. And with the holidays coming in soon, those numbers are most likely going to increase. And that's because a lot of the buildings, condo and apartment buildings that have the little, usually in the entryway, the mailboxes are there and the delivery drivers drop off the boxes. So a lot of times from the street, you could see all the FedEx and the UPS packages, Amazon packages sitting right there. So what I suggested with a lot of the buildings in the past to kind of alleviate this is, if at all possible, there's a closet or a lockbox that could be put in the lobby so the delivery drivers can put them in some type of lockbox so they're not sitting out in the open. That really drastically decreases the availability of these people to be able to get in and steal these packages, and trying to get those picked up as soon as possible is also a key into preventing that. So all in all, we're up 12.4% in Part 1 crime in the South Brentwood area. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, I know we have questions, but a lot of the apartment and condo buildings, I get calls all the time regarding unhoused people in the alleys, loitering in the carports. And when I go out to a lot of these locations, what I do notice is, and these are things that kind of attract the unhoused to certain areas, is there's lack of lighting in the evening, whether it's motion or lights that are constantly on in carports. The other thing is there's electrical outlets that are available for the unhoused to plug in, their phones, to charge their phones, to charge iPads, and also water outlets for hoses. They don't have locks on them. So wherever those are, I notice a more increase in the unhoused loitering in those areas. So I try and, when I get a call from somebody that lives in a building, I go out and try and take a look at it. And then I try and point out these things. And if they lock those up, the unhoused will tend to move on to a house or a building that doesn't have those locked up. So if you do live in a building, it's beneficial to have the building owner, if it's an HOA, to have the locks put on the outlets and the water faucets where the hose connects up to. And then those are about the only things I could think of right now. I probably better to open it up to questions. I know there's some questions that people already submitted, so I'd be happy to answer those.
Barbara, have we received any questions that have come in?
Yeah, yes. The first one is, why aren't there more walking patrols in the high crime areas? We need more police officers on the streets and not inside their cars.
That's a good question. The patrol officers, to get that, you would have to have, I used to work the bike patrol, which we no longer really have in West LA anymore because of the lack of officers. I was in 2003 to about 2005, I was on a bike patrol, and there was, I think at that time that we had 6 officers, and then at one point we had 8 officers and 1 sergeant. And being on the bike is the best of everything because you're out and about, you could see everything, you're not in a car, you could hear what's going on. I used to run through all the alleys, mainly right around our station, because that's where the high crime area was. And that was a very easy way to catch people doing drugs, stealing stuff. It was because they didn't see you coming on the bicycle. Unfortunately, the way our patrol officers are, they have to be in the vehicle because they're running from call to call. The senior leads, we're out meeting with people. So when there's burglaries, I do tend to do follow-ups, and I'm walking the streets to try and mainly to get camera footage. But right now we just don't have footbeat officers. We used to have them in Westwood Village when Westwood Village was more bustling than it is now. But we just don't have the patrol officers are in their cars. And I know we got the metro officers to do horseback, but that's always a temporary thing because they have to move on somewhere else. If we had more officers and we're able to get a bike unit back together, that would be ideal, because that's the best thing. Because if you need to chase somebody, instead of running after them on foot, you're on a bicycle and you can catch them a lot quicker. So I understand the footbeat, but actually the bicycles would be the best. It's just we don't have the manpower to facilitate having a permanent 4 to 6 officers that are dedicated just to work the bicycle unit, because we're actually just trying to make sure our 7 basic cars, we have enough officers to fill those 7 basic cars. So it's just a manpower thing that we don't have enough people to facilitate having a permanent foot beat.
There are a few more questions. Do we have time for?
I think we have a few minutes, Barbara.
Okay, one is, what actions are being taken to enforce traffic speed limits and stop sign compliance in our residential area?
Well,
Hey, do you mind if I add to this? I'm just one of the listeners on the call and I was going to ask a question about this.
yeah. Do you want me to
Thanks.
answer?
Thanks, Officer Kirk. No, I was just going to say, I noticed a lot of people speeding here, and we tried to figure out a path to get a crosswalk in the neighborhood or some speed bumps in the neighborhood, because we have also noticed higher speed travel of cars passing through the neighborhood. It would also be interesting to know if you've got any data on more car accidents, because it seems like, especially on Bundy, there's been 2 in the last few weeks. So is there anything we can do to kind of get people slow down and stop running into each other?
Well, I get requests probably on a weekly basis, emails from residents, because obviously the residents that live on a certain street, be it Bundy, Barrington, or even side streets, because with the advent of Waze, streets that never had traffic during rush hour are now like a high volume, and people are trying to, instead of going on Wilshire Boulevard, they're going on Goshen or Gorham or Darlington or Mayfield, and they're blasting through there and try and cut out to the main thoroughfares. So I get these complaints, and usually the best way to do enforcement, I try and get our patrol officers to do it, but since they're answering radio calls, I go directly to our motor officers. We have they're kind of like a senior lead, but they work on specific problems. And basically I have 2 officers that I use, and they come to my office probably 2 to 3 times a week, but I send emails out. So I get complaint locations from residents, whether it's a stop sign, speed. I just got one today where people are going north on Federal, and the gridlock on Wilshire Boulevard and Federal right there. People are making, instead of, it's a 1 turn lane to go eastbound towards the 405 freeway, people are making turns from the 2 lanes that are supposed to go straight across Wilshire Boulevard. So a complaint like that, I respond to the person that made the complaint, and then I forward that direct complaint to the 2 motor officers, and they do their best to, all the requests I put in, they do their best to get out there and try and do the enforcement on those specific locations. But I'm working off of 2 motor officers and I kind of try and keep them in the Brentwood area as much as possible, although they're split between myself and the Palisades. So Brian Espin, who's the senior lead for the Palisades, is out there trying to get them over to his side too. So if you have a request or a problem location, you can shoot me an email, and then I will in turn let the motor officers know to work on those problems. But understand, they probably get in a month over 100 requests for specific locations. Obviously, a lot of problems on San Vicente Sunset with speed. Mandeville Canyon, there's with the cyclists and the traffic coming down the hill. There's certain locations where they spend more time because there's more accidents and more issues there. But feel free to email me the problem locations, and I will in turn send them out. And sometimes they might work it for 5 hours one day and write 15 to 20 tickets, and then they might not be able to get back to that location. But usually if they do a lot heavy enforcement on one day, it gets the people thinking that probably shouldn't be speeding because they don't know when those motor officers are, and they're able to hide between cars when a patrol unit is not going to be as effective as the motor officers are.
Great. I just want to remind our listeners to send their questions in by email to info@southbrentwood.org.
Lisa's one more for Matt. Do we have time?
We do.
Can you speak to the effectiveness of a private patrol that some of the people in South Brentwood have basically hired?
Yeah, the private patrol does, if they're effective. There's so many different companies, but I do know I'll use example, the Brentwood Park area. I do know after we had a large increase of burglaries in that particular area. We did have Metro in the area, but I did notice a lot more, actually in general, all of Brentwood, I've noticed a lot more private security. When I'm out patrolling the problem locations, I do notice a lot more security. And if they're, patrolling around and paying attention to what's going on, a lot of these companies, the supervisors have, they get my weekly crime updates, so they know the problem locations where the burglaries are, where the package thefts are. And if they're effectively looking at my data and telling their patrol officers to go out and look for certain stuff. And then a lot of times areas like Mountain Gate, for example, have a bunch of cameras. They see my reports with the residential burglaries, and in turn, during the time frame when these burglaries occurred, they're looking through their cameras and then coming back to me when they have a possible suspect vehicle. So if they're patrolling and kind of keeping an eye out and being very active, it does make a difference in, the burglars coming into the area. If they see an effective private security that's paying attention to what's going on, possibly writing down license plate, kind of monitoring, what's going on, they kind of know who lives in certain areas. And if they see something out of the ordinary, they're kind of following them or just monitoring what they're doing. These guys tend to go where there's less private security. So I think it can be an effective thing, provided they're not sitting on their phone under a tree, which in not Brentwood area, but other areas, I've seen some security that are sitting under a tree and they don't move for an hour and a half. That's an ineffective security company, or at least that officer is. So if you do hire people and you're out and about and they don't look like they're being effective, make sure you contact the person that, the supervisor of these people, make sure they're actively driving around and doing something positive instead of, just collecting a check.
Great. Well, thank you, Matt Kirk, for this excellent report.
Oh, and I just wanted to say one more thing. People many times, with regards to reporting crimes, they need a report for crime. I want to remind people that lapdonline.org is our website. And when you log in there, there'll be headings at the top and it'll say Get Service. If you click on that, it'll have a drop-down menu and it'll say File a Report. You click on that, and the reports that you can file online without coming to the station or waiting, on the phone to make a message with the officers from the front desk or report, You can do lost property, vandalism, theft, theft from motor vehicle, minor traffic collisions, a hit and run, identity theft, a hate incident, not a hate crime, but a hate incident, and illegal dumping. So those are the reports, and it shows what reports when you log in, what you can be taken online. And then once those are taken online, there's like a 3 to 4 day period before I actually see the report, but it gets sent through. Because a lot of people I've had people leave voice messages on my phone, and if I'm gone for 3 or 4 days and then I let them, they didn't even know they could make a report online. So I just wanted to remind people of that. And the other thing is the LA 311 app for your phone. That's a very useful tool. I use it when I'm out and about with my city phone. If I see homeless encampment, I see abandoned like couch, I see graffiti, I see maybe a stop sign's blocked by a tree. It's a very simple app. You could drop down menu, it'll say, what are you reporting? Graffiti. You give an address or the closest intersection, you could actually drop a pin on the map, which will put your location on there. It'll tell you if you're outside the city limits that it won't work, but if you're in the city, it works. And then you could take a photo of what you're observing, whether it's graffiti. That's a great tool to use if you're driving around and you see something and you have the time to report. It takes like 2 minutes to report it, and then they'll give you a ticket number, and then they'll email you back when they've completed the whatever the request was. So I just wanted to put that out there also.
Thank you again, Matt, and thank you again for that excellent information.
You're very welcome.
I would now like to introduce Jackie Irwin. She's our California State Assembly member for District 42. Jackie?
Oh, hello there. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the invitation.
Since you're new to our area, Jackie, I think it would be helpful for you to talk a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the State Assembly.
Oh, certainly. And yes, I've been representing the Brentwood area for 2 years now, but I actually just finished my 10th year in the State Assembly. Before that, I served for 10 years on the Thousand Oaks City Council, where I was mayor a couple of times. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Woodland Hills, and graduated from Taft High School, went to UC San Diego. I have a degree in systems engineering and worked at the Applied Physics Lab on post-flight processing of the Trident II missile, and then at Teledyne Systems Company before we moved to Thousand Oaks, where I live with my husband, and I have 3 adult children.
Great. Can you explain a little bit about what the Assembly does, and when our members want to contact your office, who do they reach out to?
Well, certainly, and I have Anthony Avila on this call, and he is specifically the representative that is in charge of your area. But basically, I make laws. We make laws in the State Assembly in Sacramento. I represent you up in Sacramento. We have 80 Assembly members and 40 senators. Your senator is Ben Allen. We work very closely together, have a lot of overlapping areas. And so up in Sacramento, it's the bills and the laws that we pass, and obviously the state budget also. But I think the most important work is really done down at the district, and we have a satellite office in Pacific Palisades. Our main office is in Thousand Oaks, and my staff has assisted really thousands of people in connecting them with state agencies, especially during the pandemic, helping with unemployment, disability. We often have requests for help with the DMV. And then we also do a lot of town halls. We've done a couple of safety fairs where we've brought in public safety, both police and fire. We do scam seminars where we go into, I represent 10 cities, go into each of the cities and invite in like the Attorney General to especially help seniors with scams. And we have done what is probably the #1 issue for my constituents is insurance. And so we've done a number of insurance town halls also.
I understand that you have some significant bills around retail crime.
Yeah.
Can you discuss some of the legislation you helped craft around crime and any other upcoming legislation that you want us to know about?
Oh, certainly. Well, so the legislature goes in a 2-year cycle, and so the governor had until the end of September to sign the bills that were put on his desk, and we were very excited that 13 of our 13 bills were signed, and we definitely had some highlights in there. The organized retail theft bill, I was especially happy that that got signed because I've been trying to pass that bill for the last 3 years. And somehow it died in committee along the way. This one was sponsored by our district attorney in Ventura County. And basically it makes it easier to prosecute organized retail theft. Right now, to prove organized retail theft, there are a number of factors that you have to look at. And one is, the crime itself, like the smash and grab, but then there's a fencing operation and stolen property, and multiple people have to be involved. But if it happens in different counties, you can't consolidate all those offenses. So this bill was finally signed and got almost unanimous support in the state legislature, and it allows cross-jurisdictional prosecution. So it will make it much easier for district attorneys to actually charge with the crime of retail theft and prosecute retail theft. So we were excited about that one. We also had a number of other bills that are first in the country, and it looks like other states will probably be following, and just I'll highlight a couple of them. I won't go through all of our 13 bills, but one of the ones that actually really resonates with people is when you open your refrigerator and you pull out some food and you see a label on the food that says sell by. Nobody really knows what that means because it's completely meaningless to consumers. And it turns out on the food that we're purchasing, there's 60 different labels being used. We've actually filmed a segment in a grocery store, and it was enjoy by, sell by, eat by, packed on, and nobody really knows what that means. So in California now, the law that we just passed, AB 660, it's going to require best if used by and used by. So those two labels to indicate peak freshness and safety. It's estimated that 20% of all food waste is caused by consumer confusion. So not only does that waste money, we think our bill will save families, $1,200 to $1,500 a year. But all that rotting food also ends up in the landfills and creates methane, which obviously leads to climate change. So excited about that one. It is a bill that they've been trying to pass at the federal level. So we think now that California has passed it, we were able to remove all opposition, that the rest of the states and the federal government will follow. And then one other bill that I will mention, because it just happened that the parents of Katie Meyer reached out to me today. Katie Meyer was a young woman that grew up in Newbury Park, just the right part of Thousand Oaks, and she went to Stanford. She was an excellent soccer player, and she had a disciplinary action because she had thrown some coffee while she was riding a bike against her. Now, this was a gal that was on a national, she was the goalie for the Stanford soccer team, incredible student, had applied to law school. And at 7 o'clock at night, she gets a notice after a year of this action that she might not get her diploma, she might not graduate, she might be kicked out of school, and half an hour later she took her own life. So the bill that is passed, and this is to honor her memory, is that if students at Cal State, UC, or the community colleges, so all the public schools in California, if they have a disciplinary action, that they can choose a person to help them navigate the process. And her parents think that this could potentially have saved her life. You know, college students, and especially those that are in these high performing universities, have an incredible amount of stress. So there is going to be, they're on national TV and talking about Katie Save with Jake Tapper. And the hope is that this becomes the law across the country. And we've worked on a lot of other bills, including AI training and disclosure for video games and movies, so people understand whether they're buying or just renting them. But like I said, definitely a successful session.
Well, this legislation sounds very important to our constituents. Another area that our constituents are interested in is homelessness. And is there any areas around homelessness that the Assembly gets involved in?
Yeah, a lot of the work on homelessness has to be carried out by the local government. So, the cities and the counties, it's really important that they do the work. What the legislature does is allocate funds at the state level. So we don't necessarily get into the nitty gritty, but I was for 6 years the chair of the Military and Veterans Committee. And for me, that's something really close to my heart. The veterans and homeless veterans, it is absolutely our responsibility when people are willing to serve, that they do not end up on the street. So I was the co-author of AB 531, which became Proposition 1 and passed in November. And Proposition 1 it's a mental health and housing bond that passed, and it has $1 billion toward veteran housing. This builds on a very successful program that the voters supported in 2008. And then again, I think it was 2014, which is housing for veterans with wraparound services. And if you look at the number in California, the number of veterans that are homeless has actually decreased more than any other group. So it was a very successful program. And there will be $1 billion in addition going to it. The other 6 or 5 or so $1 billion is going to make sure that we expand our mental health services, because when you talk about homelessness, just building housing is not enough. So that money will be used to build beds across the continuum of care, from crisis stabilization units all the way to units that might be locked. And so now it is again the responsibility of the counties to use that money in a way that really benefits the homeless folks or people on the edge of a mental health crisis in their counties. I've just seen the plan for Ventura County, and they're really taking this responsibility very seriously. I also said if I was going to be involved with it, I wanted to have accountability, because we've definitely seen a lack of accountability in spending. So there's a lot of accountability measures, and the RFP for that bond that passed in, so the request for proposals is already out, which is almost unheard of since the bond just passed in March. So we're going to be looking very closely to watch to make sure that money is spent in a way that really makes a difference for our community.
Great. You mentioned that you've done a lot of work in the area of fire insurance, homeowners fire insurance. And we were aware, of course, that people in the hills and canyons in Brentwood are having a lot of difficulty getting homeowners insurance. But we received a letter from someone in South Brentwood who owns a condo near the VA, and it was told that she couldn't get her insurance renewed. We understand that you have some legislation on this, which you mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about that legislation and what you can do on the insurance, or what you are doing on it?
Yeah, just to kind of clarify, the insurance, there is not that much that the legislature can do, because this is really the responsibility of the insurance commissioner. What we did was, and we have been in constant communication, really trying to press him to come up for a solution with what's happening to the majority of my constituents, which is either the insurance rates have increased, multiple times, or people are being dropped and have to go to the FAIR plan, and the FAIR plan is really supposed to be used as, as a last resort. But the first thing we did was we wrote a letter, because a lot of folks in condos and in homes that were more expensive were not even able to get onto the FAIR plan. And so we wrote a note to the insurance commissioner, and he has increased the rates and increased the limits. And basically this allows these condo associations to at least get that bottom level insurance from the FAIR plan. So that is not a that is a short-term solution, but it's not a long-term solution. So we have held multiple town halls. I would recommend that you go to my website and look at the tapes of some of those where we had a representative from the insurance commissioner's office talk about the reforms that they are making to the current process to try to bring insurers back into the state and get a competitive market going again. Because you have heard the stories over the last few years that insurance companies are leaving because they just can't afford to do business. And there are multiple reasons for that, the type of what they call modeling. So for instance, right now, insurance is based on looking back 10 years as opposed to modeling that looks forward. So in an area like Thousand Oaks or Malibu, the insurance is based on the Woolsey fire. And what we really want the insurance companies to look at is what is the current risk? Have communities hardened, done community hardening? Have individual homeowners made sure that they have done hardening? And so that should, having catastrophic modeling should bring some of the insurance companies back. And then there's some other reforms that are going also. So we're really pushing on them every few months. We're talking to the insurance commissioner to really push those regulations through, which again, the insurance companies have promised would they haven't promised, but have said that would bring them back to California. And then we would have more of a market, and then you really need to depopulate the FAIR plan and only have the highest risk properties in there, because we have way too many homes that are being insured by the FAIR plan right now.
Great. Barbara, I understand we have one more audience question.
Yes, it has to do with your position on Proposition 33. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
On Proposition 33, yes, obviously it sounds very enticing to talk about rent control and getting rid of rent control, the inability of cities to have rent control, basically. I think the reason that you're seeing so much opposition to it is that what we have found, and I haven't supported rent control at the state level either, because the real concern is that if it doesn't pencil out for developers, that they're going to stop building. And if you look at the people that are opposed to 33, you will see that it's a lot of the groups that are building low income housing, and they are the ones that need to make everything pencil out with tax credits and support from the state. and they just don't think that they would be able to do it. So it sounds very enticing to folks like, oh, this is the solution for the problem that we have with high rents. But if no more housing is being built, we are going to be having an even bigger issue than we currently have.
Well, I think I want to thank you so much for joining us. It was a
Certainly.
pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And you know, I just want to say again, Anthony's on the phone. He can maybe in the chat put his contact information. We want to be problem solvers and want to make sure that you reach out if you have any issues with state departments, if you have issues, if you have an idea about a bill, if you want us to do a fraud, a scam seminar, we're happy to come into, come into your community and do that. We have, if you want to group together to have coffees, we do all that. So just reach out to Anthony, and, we want to be of service. That's our job. And please let us help you if you need it. I know that sounds like I'm from the government, I'm here to help, but that's, we really are here to help.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And now we have a pre-recorded video from our U.S. Congressman, Brad Sherman, excuse me, and he's with the 32nd District. And not our slideshow, but that would be the recorded address for Brad.
Hello, I'm Congressman Brad Sherman. I'm from America's best named city, Sherman Oaks. For 28 years, I've represented the West and the South San Fernando Valley in the United States Congress. And for the last 2 years, they've also added major portions of the West Side to my district, including Brentwood. It's a pleasure to be with you. I want to thank you for this opportunity to address the South Brentwood Residents Association on your 48th general meeting. Want to get the message out about our Constituent Service Office. And I know that John Alford is on this call. He plays a critical role in our constituent service effort. Imagine a federal agency makes a mistake. It could happen. It could affect you. If that happens, you call John at 818-501-9200. You call John, he works very hard, he solves your problem, and then I, Brad Sherman, take the credit. It's an outstanding system. Now I know that since I'm on, so many of you are going to want to say, well, let's spend 90 minutes talking about all of the issues confronting our country. And that is exactly what we're going to do on November 14th. That's our next telephone town hall. If you want to sign up in advance, and I recommend that you do so, you go to bradsherman.house.gov. That's House for House of Representatives, bradsherman.house.gov. You can RSVP for the event. You can also submit a question in advance. It's like a giant conference call. I'll make some opening remarks, and then we'll take questions from everywhere from Brentwood and Malibu to Chatsworth and Studio City, and I look forward to hearing what's on your minds. I also want to point out that in Congress, I'm able to get funds for specific local projects, and I want to bring some of these to your attention, but I want to get your ideas on what I should be pushing for in the years to come. We were able to secure $3 million to renovate fire stations in our district. And we all appreciate what the fire department does. I've been to these stations, they need the help. We've also secured over $8 billion for supportive housing and services for the unhoused that live in our community. In particular, we have about $3 million for housing at the West LA VA. Now that is on top of the $360 million that is part of the big national bill that I worked on along with Ted Lieu and Mark Takano. We've also secured funds for transportation, for security grants, for houses of worship, that might be at the risk of terrorism, for rail safety, and for open space protection. Lastly, I want to commend the South Brentwood Residents Association. You're clearly about helping our community and keeping the community informed. I want to thank the Board of Directors for giving me this opportunity to say, I'm Congressman Brad Sherman. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to take a break from our elected officials and hear about transportation projects going on in our area. I would like to welcome Nick Fox Robbins. He's the local government relations manager, West Side from LA Metro. And Mr. Robbins will fill us on the latest status of some of LA Metro projects. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great.
I thought first you could fill us in possibly on the Wilshire Boulevard subway D line. We see the construction going on Wilshire around the VA hospital and Westwood Boulevard for the D line subway. We'd like to know when will the work be completed? Is it on scheduled? And where will the line go? And how long will it take to get from the VA to downtown Los Angeles once it's built?
Great. Yeah. Thanks for that question. So yeah, everyone, my name is Nick Fox Robbins, and I am the local government and community relations manager for the West Side with Metro. I've been with Metro for about 6.5 months. So I am, by Metro standards, fairly new as far as all of the projects that we have. And so I'm still working to catch up and learn as much as I can. And I'm going to bring you all the information that I have tonight. And I will answer any questions that come up to the best of my ability. And if I don't have the answer, I'll be honest with you and I'll tell you. And then I will track the answer down for you and come back to your community and answer that question. So I do have the answer to the first question, though. So the purple line, also known as the D-line extension, is being done in 3 different sections. And section 3 is the section most related to your community. So we have 2 stations in section 3. One is at UCLA Westwood, and the other is Westwood VA Hospital Station. Both of these stations are scheduled to be completed in 2027. They are on schedule to be completed, and they should be completed at approximately the same time. They're both being built right now. They're both in construction, and so we should be able to open both stations at the same time. So the excavation on the Westwood UCLA station is 100% complete. So we've pulled out all of the dirt that needs to be pulled out, and we've transitioned to the steel work and structural concrete work. This will be ongoing until December of this year. During that time, construction activities will be relatively 24 hours a day. And most of this will be happening underground, so it won't impact traffic. However, there will be various lane restrictions that will occur primarily on Wilshire Boulevard. And any lane restrictions or parking will be notified both at the location and also on Metro's website. The excavation for the Westwood VA Hospital is at about 99% complete. So there's still, to my understanding, a few more weeks of excavation to take place, and then we'll be pivoting to the steel work and concrete pours for that station as well. Construction will also be 24 hours for this. It'll be 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. during the weekdays, and on the weekends, it'll be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To answer your question about how long it will take to get from, so the VA station will be, for the time being, the end of the D line. So you'll be able to get from Westwood VA Hospital Station to downtown in approximately 30 minutes. And this is the benefit of having a station underground as opposed to having one that is at grade level where we have to deal with traffic issues. So the huge benefit of a rail underground is it can get you there quick. So downtown to the VA hospital in approximately 30 minutes. I do want to let you know, Metro is applying for a holiday moratorium exemption, which means that this would allow for the continuance of construction activities during the holiday season. That would exclude Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. We won't be working on those days. But being able to continue through the holiday season will allow us to maintain our construction schedule. Obviously, the construction is a nuisance. We completely understand that. And I think that we can probably all agree that the sooner it's completed, the better off we'll all be. And the holiday moratorium exemption will be really pivotal to help make that happen. Is there any other D-line question there? I have a few other things that I wanted to talk about, but
you covered our questions.
Great.
And perhaps we should move on to another topic.
Let's do it.
We're also very concerned about the last mile for the VA stop as well. And
Yes.
our area gets very gridlocked from about 3 to 7. And we're concerned that it's only going to get worse if hundreds of people are trying to get in and out of the VA station. So what plans does Metro have in place for getting people to and from the VA station?
Yeah, so we have identified several last mile improvements, both for the VA station and for UCLA station. The important context for last mile improvements that I want to make clear is that we create these plans, we provide these recommendations to the city and to the Veterans Affairs Department, and it is ultimately their prerogative to follow our recommendations and build out the last mile improvements with support and incentives from Metro. So our plan contains a range of pedestrian, bicycle, and transit connection recommendations for these stations. Things like improving the sidewalks, increased lighting, bike lanes that connect to the station, and the recommendations are focused on safety and connectivity on the streets. Specifically for the Westwood VA hospital, the VA campus encompasses the majority of the half-mile radius surrounding the station. The station will serve a largely veteran population, providing mobility for a group that often relies on public transportation. Currently, access across the campus is limited, which causes difficulties for pedestrians and bicyclists. So our station design includes a passenger drop-off zone. It is the western far end terminus of the Purple Line. So we are anticipating, as your question implies, we're anticipating a high demand for cars picking up and dropping off transit riders, and the solutions that we have provided to the Veterans Affairs as well as the City of Los Angeles, and both agencies are very receptive to our recommendations, that we create various cut-throughs proposed through the campus to improve accessibility. And we'll be working with the Greater LA Veterans Affairs Draft Master Plan. They are also developing pedestrian pathways and bike routes and shuttle paths through their campus. So we're working in coordination with the Veterans Affairs to make sure these pathways, bike routes, and shuttle paths make it easier to access the stations, and also easier to access the stations without using a car. So that will help to, we suspect, help to reduce the traffic issues at the station. The City of LA is very interested in implementing our last mile improvements at the VA station. The timeline for those improvements is unfortunately out of Metro's hands. We are in control of when the station can open, and we can push the city to enact our last mile recommendations. But ultimately, it's on them to make those happen.
And could you give us a quick update then on some of your other projects as well?
Yes. One thing I wanted to talk about is safety before pivoting to another project. It's obviously it's at the forefront of everybody's mind, and it's at the forefront of Metro's mind as well. We realize that our customers won't ride our system if they don't feel safe riding our system. And our employees and our customers deserve a safe environment to commute to various places across the system. We're improving the system drastically with various projects that I'll mention, and a few that I won't because they're not really pertaining to the Brentwood area, but they'll only be as effective as people feel safe and comfortable using it. So we are approaching the security issue from a multi-pronged approach. We are increasing the engaged, visible presence of uniformed personnel. I also want to pause and note, I ride transit every single day. I ride Metro every single day. So I'm invested in this not only professionally, but personally as well. And the safety issue is very important to me and my family as well. So we are increasing the engaged, visible presence of uniformed personnel. We are enhancing access control to ensure the system is being used only for the intended purpose of transit. And we are continuing to partner with the county, the cities, and regional agencies to address societal issues such as homelessness, untreated mental illness, and drug addiction, which have, unfortunately, an outsized impact on our transit system. So as far as increasing the engaged, visible presence of uniformed personnel, people have told us, and our studies have shown, that people are safer when uniformed personnel are conspicuous and visible. And we know that having security and law enforcement on our system is critical to the feeling of safety as well as actual safety. We've implemented a 20% surge in the last few months, a 20% surge of public safety personnel that Metro controls. So this means we've added more Metro transit security officers who focus on bus safety. They patrol our system, and they enforce the Metro Code of Conduct and fare payment, both of which we know to contribute to a safer system. We know, based on our arrest statistics, that the majority of people who commit crimes on our system also did not pay their fare. So an emphasis on fare enforcement has shown a visible decrease in criminal activity. We've surged our unarmed Metro ambassadors. You may have seen them in their bright green shirts. We've added over 300 of them to greet people, answer questions, help people find their way, and keep a watchful eye out for problems and report them. In our survey that we conducted recently, 60% of respondents said that seeing the ambassadors on our system helped them to feel more safe. Our ambassadors help in a couple of ways. They provide additional uniformed presence, that visible presence. They accompany passengers when requested on short trips to ensure they know where they're going. And they help to de-escalate situations based on the unique techniques for their training that we provide for them. They also call Metro Security or 911 as needed when situations call for law enforcement involvement. We're also working with our contracted law enforcement partners to implement a surge of their uniformed law enforcement officers to step up and maintain their visible presence. As a rider of Metro, I have noticed their increased presence. Additionally, we just it was, I think, July of this year, our board approved Metro starting its own police department. This is a 5-year process. In year 1, so currently we are actively working to recruit a police chief for the Metro Police Department. And within 5 years, we will have phased out our contracted law enforcement relationships, and we will be patrolling our system with our own police department. Ensuring that the system is being used for transit is, as I said, very important. So increasing our fare enforcement by adding more transit security officers has decreased crime on our system. Another thing that we're implementing is a tap to exit system. So in May in May of this year, we started in North Hollywood a tap to exit pilot program where riders are required not just to tap in, but to tap to exit. And, this isn't new. We're not recreating the wheel here. The BART system in the Bay, Washington, D.C. system has this, as well as several others. And it's proven to reduce crime and reporting of crime across the entire red line, B line system. The North Hollywood station is the end of the B line, and the impact has shown itself across the entire system. Building on that success, we moved the tap to exit to Santa Monica's downtown station. So it's now on our E line, and we have seen a decrease in criminal activity across the entire E line as well. We're going to be expanding the tap to exit program to 10 other end of line stations. And once the VA station opens, we'll be expanding it to the end of the D line as well. So this has shown a 40% drop in reports on fights, drug use, and graffiti. We are continuing to track the data on the tap to exit. And we've seen a decrease in all of our criminal activity during the summer, which is particularly notable because that is normally when we see an increase in criminal activity because school is out of session. In Santa Monica, there has been a 60% reduction in the last 2 months across the entire E line on smoking, drugs, and alcohol use on our system. Let's see, what else have I got for you here with safety? So physical environmental changes of our stations. This is critical to making people feel safer. We are doing an increased law enforcement. We're expanding our pilot of keeping our train doors closed until 1 minute before the train is set to depart. This allows for us to keep our trains cleaner and for people to not sneak in between stops for any illicit sort of activity. We are expanding our elevator open door program to 57 elevators on our system. What this means is that our elevators on our system are open as a default. This has resulted in a large decrease in vandalism, graffiti, smoking, public urination, and other improper uses of our elevators because they're now open. I mean, you can do things behind closed doors that you can't do with open elevator doors. So they obviously close when you need to use them, but while they're not being used, they're open. We're expanding mobile restrooms to 64 stations. Mobile restrooms have resulted in a 50% reduction in public urination around our systems, which makes them cleaner, it makes them smell better, and it makes them more comfortable and safe to ride. We're upgrading our camera systems. We are installing brighter lighting. We are including classical music in our systems, which promotes people turnover and reduces loitering. We are identifying locations in each of our stations that are underutilized, and we're closing them off to the public so that our access public are in single locations that can be more easily monitored by our security systems. So that's, sorry, I know I'm going on and on, but safety is important.
Thank you. We're very pleased to hear about all those safety enhancements. Very valuable. We just very quickly, we'd like to touch on a few other items very quickly. For example, the toll lanes on the I-405 Sepulveda Pass. What's the status of that, and what is Metro's current thinking on that project?
Yes, so the current thinking is that we are going to be converting the existing HOV lanes, the existing carpool lanes, into toll lanes, express lanes that will both bring revenue for improved transit projects and also create faster commuting on the 405. There are studies still being conducted about the best way to go about this. They should be completed in 2025, these studies. They are identifying several alternatives. A few of those alternatives do include lane expansion, but several of the alternatives do not include expanding the lanes at all and just converting the HOV lanes to express lanes. So there's no firm decision on which direction, which alternative to go, but more clarity should be available as of early 2025.
And then we'd also just like you to touch very quickly on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor project. Can you just briefly state what
Yes.
describe what it is and
Yes.
what the timing is for approval?
Yes, I think this is one of the most exciting projects Metro has. The goal is to reduce the nightmare that it is to drive on the 405 to get between the San Fernando Valley and the west side. The ultimate goal of the Sepulveda Transit Corridor is to get you from the valley to the west side in 20 minutes. That is the goal. And it is possible. There are several alternatives that are being examined right now. We're in the draft environmental impact report stage, which means that they are looking at the 5 to 6 alternatives, including underground heavy rail and light rail or overground monorail. All of these are being examined for environmental impacts as well as cost analysis. And the environmental impact report should be complete in spring 2025, and we are planning to have community meetings about the Sepulveda Transit Corridor in fall and winter of this year. We don't have any meetings yet scheduled, but as soon as we do, I will make sure that you know about them.
Great.
Any other
Any
issues
audience
you want to-
questions, Barbara?
Not at this time, thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, for downloading us. You provided a lot of information in a very short period of time. Thank you again.
Thank
And
you. Hope I didn't overload you, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. We now would like to turn the program over to Jaime Munoz. He's with the Bureau of Street Services for Streets LA. Did we ever receive, Jaime may have some slides.
Yeah. Do you guys have the slides? Oh, there they are.
Excellent.
Okay. So good evening. My name is Jaime Munoz, and I'm a civil engineer and project manager for the Brentwood Walkability Enhancements. I work in the Department of Street Services, also known as Streets LA. The Westside City Councils of Government and Council District 11 have worked together to bring these improvements to fruition. My team at Streets LA and our partners at LA DOT and the Bureau of Street Lighting will be teaming up for this project. Earlier this year, in May 2024, we worked with our partners at LA Metro to execute the funding agreement of $2.5 million for the design and construction of these improvements. All the work will be designed and constructed with city staff. The work will take place at the intersection of San Vicente and Gorham. The improvements consist of pedestrian safety improvements, upgrading the whole intersection, including the medians to comply with the current ADA requirements. The intent of the project is to remove all barriers, improve pedestrian access and safety. We are currently in the design phase and hope to be in the construction in the summer of 2025. Next slide. On the next slide, we are showing the improvements to be done at the intersection. We will have 12 new accessible ramps, one for each leg of the crosswalk. This will facilitate access and improve pedestrian circulation from one side of the intersection to the other. The driveway at the shopping center to the New Balance store will be relocated from Gorham onto San Vicente. This will remove the pedestrian vehicle conflict where people were using the existing driveway as a ramp. As part of our improvements, we will be upgrading the signal to comply with the ADA requirements. All push buttons will be at arm distance along the pedestrian walkways. Where possible, we will be reducing the crossing lengths for the crosswalks. These improvements will not affect the existing traffic or bike lanes. Next slide. So the picture on the left is an existing condition where the driveway and the crosswalk meet, creating an unsafe situation for pedestrians. The picture on the right is our proposed improvement showing a new curb ramp with a curb extension at the location of the existing driveway. This will create a safer, accessible pedestrian crossing. The new driveway will be shifted on to the San Vicente side. Next slide. The picture on the left shows the current typical situation at this intersection. There is no compliant curb ramps, and the push button is not accessible from the path of travel for the pedestrians. The picture on the right shows the proposed ADA compliant curb ramp, and the push button will be within arm's reach. We are excited to bring these much needed improvements to the Brentwood community. And that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Will there be any more work other than what is being worked on now? And will the community have a chance to give input into plans for San Vicente?
So right now we have $2.5 million for the improvements here along San Vicente. We are looking at improving the whole intersection at Gorham, and if there's money left over for the 2.5, we'll do improvements on Montana. There is a possibility of going back to LA Metro to see if there's additional funding available to build out those improvements, the whole intersection at Montana.
And what is the timing of the project on San Vicente?
So we are looking to start construction for the Gorham intersection, summer 2025. Currently, we're doing the design phase. We are working with our partners at LADOT and street lighting.
Okay. And we understand that there's some work going on to landscape the median from State Senator Ben Allen's office. How is this work related?
Yeah, so we're working with that other group, which is our landscape architects. We will make sure that our projects are combined, and any of our improvements don't affect the proposed landscape improvements.
Barbara, do we have any questions for Mr. Munoz?
No, not at this time.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That was very informative.
Thank you.
I appreciate the slides. Well, now we would now like to move on to our city councilwoman from District 11, Tracy Park.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Good. How are you? I don't see you yet, but I'm sure you're coming.
I'm here. If you can hear me, there we are. Hi, hi, hi. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a good evening. It's really nice to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. I have so much that I want to tell you and so much information that I want to share, and I really want to be mindful of time. So I'm going to try to stick to the 5 minutes that you gave me, and then we can move to questions. But for folks that haven't already signed up for my weekly newsletter, I really encourage you to do that. You can go to cd11.lacity.org. And the first screen that pops up is the sign up sheet. I push out a lot of information about what I'm working on in City Hall, the state of the budget, other big issues like the Olympics and infrastructure improvements on the West Side, as well as a lot of information around homelessness and public safety and projects that we're doing right in CD11. So it's a great way to follow along with me. I wanted to take just a quick moment to talk about my committee assignments at City Hall, so folks will know a little bit about the legislative work that I'm responsible for in the city. I am the chair of our Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee. So my committee has oversight for all things related to LAX, Van Nuys Airport, and the Port of Los Angeles. as well as all of our international relations and foreign investments and things like that. I am also the chair of our city's ad hoc committee for the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I've had the opportunity to travel with Mayor Bass and other members of the council to Paris to meet with Parisian officials in Paris 2024 to learn on the ground about what it takes to put on and deliver the world's largest event. 2028 is going to be here before we know it. And boy, do we have a lot of work to do to get ready. Hopefully we'll get some questions about that and I'll dive into some more of those exciting details. I also vice chair our city's transportation committee, where we are doing a lot of work around mobility. A lot of that work relates to our priorities for getting ready for the Olympics as well. I am a member of our city's public safety committee, where issues related to crime and police staffing levels are the things that we are tackling. Obviously, top of crime continues to be a top of mind issue in Brentwood and around the entire city. With staffing levels really low, we are continuing to make investments in hiring and retention. I am fully supportive of Mayor Bass's plans to grow the ranks back to 9,500, but that is going to take some time. And so in the interim, I have been a big proponent of scaling up real-time crime centers around the city as an additional tool that we can use to address some of the challenges that we're facing. I am also a member just recently in the last month or so of the city's budget committee. If you've been following along at all, you probably already know that we headed into this fiscal year with about a half a billion dollar budget deficit. We have already into this first quarter of our financial year far exceeded projections on liability payments. And we are in the process of having to do some very difficult decision-making to align staffing and priorities and projects with some of our city's bigger policy goals and preparations for major events. On the homelessness front, I wanted to let you know that in the 682 days now that I have been in office, we have made a tremendous amount of progress on the West Side. We have done dozens of significant operations around the district and housed over 600 people who were previously living in tents and vehicles. We have a very high rate of retention in interim housing, and we're moving people into permanent supportive housing more quickly than in many other parts of the city. So I'm very heartened by the reduction in street homelessness. RVs and vehicle dwellings tend to be the biggest issue about homelessness, the number one thing that my office is getting complaints about. We are actively engaged in advancing legislation that would, similar to our Safe Schools and Parks ordinance, ban RV encampments around sensitive use sites like our parks, schools, daycares, libraries. But it also requires the city to identify locations where individuals can be with access to needed services while we continue focusing on the long-term solutions. So those legislative efforts are pending. I am hopeful that we will continue to make progress there, but we're really excited about the very, very significant dent in the problem that we have made in a very, very short time. We secured a Care Plus sanitation team dedicated just to our coastal neighborhood, which has freed up a number of our city resources to take care of other parts of the district. So having just even that one additional resource has been extremely useful as well. I think you all know I have not been shy in my use of the city's Safe Schools and Parks ordinance, that's section 4118. Which prevents encampments around our sensitive use locations like schools, parks, daycares, and libraries. We went from having none of those zones here on the West Side to now having a couple dozen of them. And we have been fairly effective at keeping areas cleared once we have done an encampment intervention and been able to get the area stabilized. I think it is really important that children are able to walk in their neighborhoods to school. I think it's important that our seniors are able to safely access our libraries and senior centers. And so this is an issue that is going to continue to be a challenge and top of mind. It is something that I know Mayor Bass and her team are continuing to focus their efforts on. I really want to thank her and acknowledge her for her leadership with the Inside Safe program. In a very, very short amount of time, Mayor Bass was able to drastically increase the supply of our interim housing. And my partnership with her and her Inside Safe team has in many ways enabled me to do a lot of the work that we've done here on the West Side. So I know we have a lot of big challenges as a city. We are continuing to move the needle on those. And I know there's a lot of particular issues brewing in and around Brentwood with the VA and the Berry building and our community plan updates and all of the rest of it. So I will stop chatting. I'll stop talking. I'm more than happy to take questions and talk about whatever is on your mind this evening. So thanks again for having me, everyone.
Well, thank you. Moving on to some of these areas of concern of our neighborhood. One of those is residential burglaries. What is your office doing to address crimes such as residential burglaries?
Yes, so the issue that you are experiencing in Brentwood is something that we have seen. You've probably read headlines about these same sorts of issues in Westchester, in Encino, in Sherman Oaks, in Council District 5. This is happening everywhere. I really want to thank Mayor Bass and Chief Choi for the generous infusion of police officers to West LA Division. Hopefully you have seen in recent weeks more officers than maybe you have seen in the past. I actually just had the opportunity this week to come out for roll call in Brentwood with West LAPD early in the morning. It's really good to see them and thank them and kick them off. One of the other things that we are doing is working with communities and LAPD to put together systems of networked cameras that will give LAPD access to communities, whether that's real-time access or a resource they can utilize if there is an incident that can potentially lead to arrests and prosecution. As I mentioned before, I am supportive of expanding our real-time crime centers. We have 3 pilot programs currently pending in 3 of our police divisions. My motion calls for an expansion of those to all 21 divisions. I have been working closely with the Police Foundation on the structure for the program, but those are some interim solutions as well that are going to have to supplement in the absence of adequate staffing. I think LAPD just recently fell down to about 8,700. That is the lowest levels that we've seen in decades. But again, we have made very significant investments in the recruitment and retention. We recently approved a 4-year contract for LAPD, as well as raises to make it more competitive with other cities. So some of those strategies are working. We are seeing an uptick in applicants, but the hard reality is we are years away from having the adequate staffing levels that I think we need for a city of 4 million people.
Well, thank you. And you mentioned the recent decision by U.S. District Court Judge Carter on the VA use of VA land. The VA needs to terminate its leases with the Brentwood School, UCLA, and possibly the Brentwood Village parking lot. Are we about to lose our parking for Brentwood Village?
That is something that we are keeping a very close eye on, and it is an issue that we are going to have to work together as a community to resolve. So shortly after the ruling came out from Judge Carter, I convened meetings with a number of community leaders and stakeholders, including the Brentwood School and folks related to our veteran service organizations around the issue, just to begin the process of capturing some of the community concerns, impacts related to traffic and parking and infrastructure. And I summarized a lot of that back in a letter to Judge Carter, just to let him know that we are here and we are engaged. I'm very pleased that Brentwood School was able to work with the parties, and I think is going to be able to resolve those issues. But of course, the parking and I think the dog park are still some outstanding issues on the CD11 side of things. What will happen with UCLA on just the other side of the facility in Council District 5, I'm not sure. Legally, I don't know if the VA will appeal. I have not heard a confirmation one way or another from them. And I'm not sure if UCLA will. So there may still be a few more steps in the legal process, but I would expect that Judge Carter is going to continue pushing the parties. Many of you probably know Judge Carter from the LA Alliance lawsuit. He is a very hands-on, innovative kind of a guy, and I expect that he will be pushing the parties to get these issues resolved. And if he can't, he's not afraid to use the legal system to get the outcome he's looking for. So a lot more to come on that. We should definitely stay in touch about those impacts potentially in South Brentwood. So just know that you have an open line to me in my office, and happy to chat with any of you and SBRA about other concerns and issues, so that we're all on the same page about things.
Well, thank you for that. And your office recently negotiated an agreement with the owner of the Berry building, the site of the one time of the Dutton's bookstore. As you know, that lot has been boarded up and vacant for over 12 years now. Many South Brentwood residents wrote in supporting demolition. Will this building ever be torn down? That's something more useful to the community will be built in its place? What is the next step?
So thank you for that question. Yeah, overwhelmingly, we heard from the community a desire for this building to go. I don't think there's any real dispute here. The building is dilapidated. It's an underutilization of the space, and frankly, Brentwood deserves better. What ultimately would be replaced at that site, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know in whose hands it will ultimately end up and what their plans for it may be. But whatever that may be is likely much better than the current circumstances. So we have been actively engaged with the process. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommended certifying the EIR, but they stopped just short of recommending adoption of a statement of overriding considerations. So the next step is going to be for LADBS to decide whether to certify the EIR and whether to adopt the SOC. So I want to make sure that there's a vision for this, that, you know, the historic elements of it are retained and incorporated. I think that there's real value in that. But I do think that it is time for Brentwood to have something better in that location. So stay tuned on that. We are more than happy to push out information when it gets scheduled with DBS, and another opportunity for folks to make their voices heard.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Your office had supported making the former residence of Marilyn Rowe historic monument, and the community raised concerns about tour buses and other disruptions to the very small streets around the residence. SBRA had opposed making this an historic monument. What is the current status of the building?
So it was declared an historic cultural monument by the commission, as well as by the city's Plum Committee and a unanimous vote of the city council. I have heard the concerns from the community about impacts on traffic and public safety loud and clear, and that is not acceptable. I don't want to cause problems or issues for the community. And so one of the things that we have done to address that was introduce a motion calling for a traffic study to see what interventions we could do and for a bar on tour buses up Carmelina. And so we had DOT out there over several days monitoring the traffic coming and going. And they actually didn't find anybody that was parking or going there to visit the site over the days that they were there. I think that in the initial wake of the story being in international headlines, literally all over the world, we heard from people asking for us to do this. There was quite a bit of attention, and I think a higher level of looky-loos, frankly, that were coming by out of curiosity. So it is something that we are continuing to monitor. I'm not going to put up with people trespassing or engaging in conduct that violates people's privacy. And we will work with LAPD if that is necessary on whatever interventions would address that problem. Ultimately, what happens with the house, I don't know. The owners of the home have filed a lawsuit, and so that is likely to be tied up in litigation for some time, but happy to keep you updated as we know more about it.
Thank you for that. HLA was legislation passed that says that if any transportation project is approved, including something like repaving a street, it could trigger a requirement to implement the West Side Mobility Plan. Our main concern in South Brentwood is that the West Side Mobility Plan calls for a protected bike lane on San Vicente, and the street doesn't have room for that without eliminating parking or a travel lane. Is HLA being enforced by the city, or is it under review?
Yeah, so HLA, you're right, requires very expensive, substantive roadway modifications, which are typically loss of parking in order to install various infrastructure like bike lanes or dedicated bus lanes or curbed medians or that sort of thing. This was a ballot measure that was passed based on the mobility plan, which is a visionary planning document. It's not a capital improvement plan. And the legislation requires these roadway modifications to be done every time the city resurfaces a 1/8 segment of the road. And so the Transportation Committee is currently working on an implementation ordinance in consultation with DOT and Bureau of Street Services, and thinking about how we're going to how and where we're going to prioritize those projects. And there is certainly discussion happening around Olympic venue locations and other places where we already know we're going to be making a shift to transit and then those last mile connections. And so there are discussions about it happening now, but it is a very, very significant undertaking that's got a $3.5 billion price tag on it over the next decade. And we are in the budget situation that we are in with a lot of competing priorities related to homelessness and public safety and getting our infrastructure up and running and ready for the Olympics. And so it's a lot to juggle, and it's we're having those discussions and making those decisions as we speak.
Great. Shifting to another topic, we received a question from a renter, long-term renter in Brentwood. She said that she found that her landlord will not perform basic maintenance requests like new carpet, painting walls, and that the condition just keeps dilapidating. And what is the council office doing to advocate for renters to work with landlords to address basic repairs and maintenance upgrades? And I understand that there is a balance given that we do have substantial rent control ordinances that we need the landlords to comply with.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for that specific constituent, if he or she is listening, what I would suggest is reaching out to my office. Michael Amster is the field deputy for South Brentwood. He can help, as well as Jeff Cow, who is does planning and housing for me. And he can help that particular individual. He'll get an assessment of what the issues are and then can help advise on the best way to get the city's assistance and remedy on that. You know, it's a really challenging market. As we all know, the rents are too dang high. We've tried a lot of interventions with rent control. We've undertaken just this year one of the biggest expansions of renter protections that our city has seen in decades. But it's a hard time, right? We're coming off of the pandemic where a lot of landlords, especially smaller ones, mom and pop landlords, weren't able to collect rent. Their costs and insurance and maintenance continued to go up. And so there's a lot to it in thinking about sort of what the right balance is. We in the city council are mindful of all of the interests at stake and what we do to protect not just renters, but to protect our supply of affordable housing stock. And a lot of times when the businesses just don't pencil out anymore, what happens is those smaller landlords sell out to corporate developers, and those units get knocked down and we end up with more market rate and, you know, things that aren't really solving the problem that's right in front of us. So it's something that we spend a lot of time talking about in city council.
Well, thank you for that. And hopefully that you'll be of a help to our questioner.
Yes, more than happy to help. Just have them reach out to my office. And by the way, all of our contact information is at our CD11 website, cd11.lacity. I think I said .org. It might be .gov. Either one of them works.
Great. Barbara, do we have any questions?
Yes.
For
For the sake of time, I'm going to try to combine a few. This first, there are two questions. I'm going to put it in one. It has to do with the streets in Brentwood. One is that there are streets, one such as Dorothy, that has no street light and it's pitch black. There was a safety issue. What can we do about getting new street lights? Then the second one has to do with San Vicente, where the food trucks are. There's a lot of garbage and debris, and people like to run next to the golf course and they have to run trucks. How can we stop some of that garbage and refuse from happening? So that's
So on the first one, reach out to my office again for assistance with street lighting. We can reach out to the Bureau of Street Lighting to do an assessment. So that would be the easiest first step, is just reach out to Michael Amster with that request. I've heard the issue with the trash and the food trucks before, and I think there have been some discussions at least about adding some trash cans, some extra trash cans in the area. And I don't know, and I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head where we left off with that. And I don't know if Michael Amster is on with, I think he is on our call tonight, but my field deputy.
I'm here, boss.
Hi, Michael, where did we leave off with the trash cans?
So with the trash cans, our ability to shift them around is limited, but I still keep San Vicente Boulevard in my purview. The one thing that I am going to be working on in the next several weeks is activating our CD11 beautification team to address a lot of the overgrowth and ivy along San Vicente Boulevard, make it more walkable, and also pick up trash and debris while they're out there. So this section of San Vicente definitely remains in our purview.
All right, thanks, Michael. So by the way, I didn't mention this before. One of the things that we've added to the CD11 team this year is our beautification team and our partnership with CCRD. They are incredible. If there is a spot project in the neighborhood that needs some extra attention, weed abatement or trash collection, let us know and we can send them out for that. Michael, we're going to check back with sanitation on the trash cans. Stay tuned for more updates.
Well, that's certainly great to know. Barbara, is there anything else that's come in?
Yes, yes. This one we're going to kind of shift to encampments. Okay, your favorite subject. Here's one specific question. How can we get rid of the encampment that persists on Olympic under the 405? Also, tents keep popping up on Ohio and Santa Monica Boulevard, Wilshire and Bundy. Their locations are constantly coming and going with many tents. And the writer says, I personally keep reporting to LASA with no effectiveness. And then the other half is between the VA and the city of LA, when we're going back and forth between when it's county and when it's city, and how to coordinate that, because that's a level of frustration with trying to report. So
Okay, good questions. So with respect to the VA, you know, I said this earlier, I have not been shy about designating locations under our Safe Schools and Parks Ordinance, that's section 4118. And I know there's the constant back and forth jurisdiction between the VA and the county and the city around the area. I designated it with 4118. So if there's an encampment in that particular area, let us know. We can send services out there. If there are issues with encampments as well, good to let LASA know, but also really good to let my team know as well. And Michael is on the call. Our homeless team is focusing actually quite a lot in West LA, and you are right. There are some pockets in South Brentwood and West LA where we have some individuals that are very, very challenging. And I will just share with you anecdotally, we have been so successful with our encampment interventions on the West Side that for people who wanted the help, who needed the help, who were well enough to say yes to the help when we offered the help, they all said yes. And those are the folks that we've successfully gotten through interim housing and into permanent housing, the people for whom the system is working the way it's supposed to work. A lot of the folks who remain on the streets today are much more challenging cases. These are higher levels of acuity, addiction, mental health issues, and some folks who just don't want to go. And right now, there are not great legal tools to force the issue. A lot of the tools that used to exist that could, if it was a criminal drug issue, be negotiated, a plea bargain in lieu of jail, people would go to rehab. That doesn't exist anymore. And so you don't have that pipeline into recovery pathways that used to be there. Rules forcing people into mental health treatment aren't adequate in the state of California. The legislature, you may remember, passed SB 43, which was bipartisan legislation out of Sacramento that expanded the definition of gravely disabled, but the county decided to delay implementation for 2 years. And so we just don't have the legal tools to force the issue right now. And that's something that I lobby for, and I am pushing for those reforms. And we're fighting to get the back end infrastructure set up that we need so that we have an inventory of recovery beds for people who need that level of higher acuity services. But the infrastructure doesn't adequately exist for it. So that's one of the issues. With respect to 4118, it may be the case that if there are, I may be able to do factual findings if there are calls related to crimes or fire to get a designation in those areas. Right now, our ordinance is very, very limited to schools, parks, daycares, libraries, and homeless shelters. And so it's something that my team and I can continue to focus on. You probably see we have a lot of services, our Care Plus teams and others are out there. So we can certainly consider some further expansions of those areas and see what we might be able to do with some of those remaining underpasses. Michael, is there anything else in process on those areas that I didn't mention that you think I should?
On homelessness specifically, the one point that
Those
I will make,
particular encampment areas.
I'm sorry, boss.
On those particular encampment areas.
Oh no, on those particular areas, nothing further.
Can I ask just a follow-up? Because it was my question, sorry.
Yes.
How does, and thank you so much, this is Lauren Michaels. But how did Governor Newsom's law that said you had to, no longer have allowed tents on the streets or whatever, he had some edict, right? That recently he said these cannot be allowed anymore. So how does that come into play or not come into play with these types of situations, which I understand is difficult?
Yeah. So a couple of months back, July-ish, Governor Newsom gave a directive to Caltrans to clear encampments off of state-owned properties. And so there have been some efforts by Caltrans doing that around California. I have personally spoken to the governor and asked for his help and partnership to do that here in CD11. We have had some success with that. Down in Delray, along the 90 freeway, for example, between Lincoln and Centinela or so, that is all state-owned property. The city of Los Angeles does not have a right of entry currently. So even though our police officers have to respond to an encampment there, if there's a criminal problem, and our firefighters have to respond when there are encampment fires, and it happens all the time, and it's in dry brush in the middle of high fire season, I sent a letter to Caltrans a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and said, we need your help to come down here and get this encampment off of this freeway median, because it's unsafe for the people living in it and coming and going out of it, as well as unsafe for the people who are driving 80 miles an hour by. And so they actually were quite responsive, and they have been down here now over a couple of days working on getting that area cleared. But again, without coupling the removal of that encampment with someplace for folks to go, it's really just a matter of displacement. And my team and I and LASA will end up intercepting them in some other location. But yeah, that is a challenge. But we are going to continue to lean in on that and push the governor for any help and assistance anytime he wants to come over here to the west side and help me work on getting those folks out of those conditions and into safer settings. I am down to roll my sleeves up.
Well, I want to thank you, Councilwoman Park, for your giving so generously of your time and providing such great information. And I'd also like to, before saying goodnight to all, I'd like to remind all of you that we will be providing information on how to contact each of the officials and staff members that have spoken tonight. If you sign up, go to our website and sign up to receive either emails or newsletters, you will receive this information. Again, our website is www.southbrentwood.org. And I'd like to say goodnight to everyone and thank you for attending.